Last year, you didn't know what your team was about. And every team is different in January than they are in September, no matter what season it is. You saw that with Tom Brady. You saw that with the New England Patriots, where it's 2-2 in the first four. Are they done now? And then by the winter, they're going on a Super Bowl run and they're doing damage. But I just feel that there's so much more knowledge and information and data on a lot of these guys with Nick Sirianni. And he had a whole year coaching under his belt that I just feel good about this first month of the year and the first 4 games of the year compared to where we were last year. So it's just so hard for me to envision that. I can't imagine them coming off to a slow start with just all the knowledge and difference with the head coach. I really believe that.
You got your Mac and Mac duo here on Brodes, 365 McMullen and McDonald, joined by Hunter Brody from 97.5 The Fanatic, which means he's in touch with you Eagle fans all the time, giving you the chance to chime in. I would say the tide has turned a little bit for Howie Roseman. We know there's always going to be Brodes, Howie lovers and Howie haters. I think the lovers are actually winning out on this offseason, and well, they should, because I think the general manager's done a dynamite job at upgrading this roster.
He absolutely has. What's up, fellas? What's going on?
What's up, Hunter? I like the backdrop. Look at that. Brodes Media. We got sports talk with Brodes. I like it.
You know what? I had a canvas on my wall for about 5 years, and I thought, it's time. It's finally time to make the upgrade here. So here we have it. But yeah, in terms of the Eagles, this is a hell of an offseason. You think about where they were last year, and now all the pickups on defense and Reddick and Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean, and now you got Bradberry opposite of Slay. It's pretty wild to think of how everything is. I didn't even speak on A.J. Brown yet. So just thinking about where they were last year and where they are now, it is night and day, and it's pretty exciting.
So where do you think this excitement level, that's what I love about Hunter. You bring it up a level. Where do you think this fan base is going to be? Yeah, we got Jody's got the coffee as well.
That's what it is.
That's the Nick Sirianni energy like level. Where do you think this fan base is going to be? They're going to be unrealistic now? Have we turned that corner to where it's like, I always like to say the we're not ready crowd. You had them the first week, 10 days of free agency. Well, we're not ready for this. We're not ready for this. We can't do this. We can't do that. Now you mention all the names, Bradberry being the latest. Is that going to change it? You see Jalen Hurts is all of a sudden an MVP candidate. The odds are coming down. Is it going to be that sort of back and forth? Are they going to go too far to the excitement level, the optimism level?
Probably. I mean, last year I was hearing 3 wins, and I had them around 6, and they won 9, obviously, which was fun to see, considering the expectations weren't high. And then now I'm hearing 13. So it's like, oh, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, probably is going to be a little aggressive, and I am a Howie Roseman supporter, but other than 2017, realistically, one of these pickups that we're super excited about probably won't pan out as much as we would like to, or maybe Nakobe Dean isn't as ready. Like, I'm just saying, in a hypothetical world, one of these moves probably won't be as flashy as we would like it to be. So that's always in the back of my mind. But realistically, I think we should be excited. And I know a lot is on the quarterback. And I think just naturally, maybe with a better defense with Jonathan Gannon, hopefully being able to, do a little bit sharper than he did last year with the talent that's on the roster now, maybe turnovers could put the football in a better position for Jalen Hurts, where just because things surrounding him are better, defenses now have to look at Devontae Smith and Antonio Brown differently, and Quez Watkins maybe as the third could be more available, even though at times I thought he was last year. Maybe the quarterback just didn't get him the ball. But if we're looking at Jalen Hurts wondering, can he get it done? My question is there enough surrounding him now where the level of demanding him to be perfect isn't as intense as maybe it would be if the roster wasn't as good, if that makes sense?
Let me ask you this, Brodes. See if you're on the same page with me here. One of the big reasons why they signed James Bradberry yesterday was A.J. Brown. And my line of logic there is Jeff Lurie said back at the owners' meeting, we're trying to walk a fine line to do what's best for the team in 2022, but keep an eye on the future, that we're going to always look toward making the Eagles a better team down the road. They'd basically done that until the A.J. Brown signing or trade. When they acquired him, you said, damn, we can win this division this year. We can finish atop the NFC East. We need to slant it a little bit more toward 2022, and that's what you do when you sign a guy like Bradberry for a 1-year deal. You're just looking to get better this year. Do you think the A.J. Brown tilted the table a little bit to make the Eagles more of a now team?
I'm sure it changed their mindset a little bit more, but I always went back to, because I would have these discussions on air all the time about, well, does Howie Roseman know that he needs that spot, or is he just going to keep it maybe a McPherson or something along those lines, thinking with the new guys up front, there could be more pressure, which would be less pressure on the secondary, and go down that road. But I feel they knew that spot needed to be fixed, right? They knew that spot needed something, even if it was something similar to an Anthony Harris, like, someone who just, you could slot in there. Maybe that ends up being Bradberry at the end of the day. Like I said, maybe it's more of a average Bradberry than it is a Pro Bowl level Bradberry, which it seems we're already slotting him into being a stud again without really knowing if that's going to be the case. But I feel that regardless on if they got A.J. Brown or not, that hole in the roster was obviously going to need something, because McPherson wouldn't have been able to hold his own jockstrap probably in that area. So I don't know. I don't know if it would have changed things in terms of getting a different player there, but in terms of the mentality and having a different mentality of what to expect this season, maybe that played a role.
You mentioned that kind of, and I said, Jody, before you came on, Hunter, this might be the best group of cornerbacks the Eagles have had since really in the modern era. I mean, from a duo standpoint, you got to go back to Lito and Sheldon Brown. Maybe you got to go back to Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor. But in the modern era, since it became this pass-heavy league, which is only 10 years, really, if you really want to, this is by far the best. And you add Avonte Maddox in the mix, who's a top 10 slot corner coming off last season. By far the best group of corners. There's injuries in this league. That's what this league is about, attrition. And you still, Zach McPherson, you mentioned, his first guy off the bench, then Tay Gowan. I mean, the depth is still a concern. I think that's realistic. But I want to go this way with you, because there were, and I don't want to call them excuses, because I'm one of these people. I think they're explanations. I gave a lot of explanations for why Jonathan Gannon called games the way he did. There's no more explanations. There can be, but nobody's going to listen to them, because you have Bradberry, you have Jordan Davis, you have Nakobe Dean, you have Kaiser White, you have all these additions added to what you already have. And then we go to the offensive side of the ball. We all know the pressure Jalen Hurts is under. Who's under more pressure? Jalen Hurts to perform because he's got everything now at his disposal, or Jonathan Gannon because he's got everything at his disposal?
It's a great question. And by the way, I might have. I'm just looking at the chat here. Did I say Antonio Brown at one point?
Yeah, you did. But AJ. People are like, people do that. Settle down.
I totally meant AJ Brown. Brad, that's a very interesting question. I would say the quarterback, just because it's the quarterback. But there is a lot of pressure on Jonathan Gannon, and I'm definitely one of those who's focusing in heavily, because I knew that there were limitations in that roster last year, as everybody did. But to see the historic rate of what Derek Carr was doing and all these guys, 90% completion percentage. Even if Ustry were playing cornerback, I feel it would be hard for quarterbacks to throw 90+ percentage. Like, it's impossible. So if we were lined up at the cornerback position,
I need a couple drops on her. So they'd be completing left and right on me.
You could be the slot guy then. But honestly, though, it's so ridiculous at times on what was being thrown out there with allowing guys to be so wide open. And also, I think that there's a lot of pressure on both, but just the nature of the quarterback position and knowing how we react to every quarterback ever in the history of Philadelphia Eagles history, I think more pressure is going to be on Jalen Hurts. And I'm fascinated to see what Jalen Hurts we get. I have expectations that he will be better than he was last year. The way that he works, his dedication, the way that he's obsessed with the craft, it's phenomenal. It's everything we would like. But I don't know at the end of the day if that jump is going to be enough to satisfy not only the fan base, me, you, everybody else involved also, but really the people that matter most, which is Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. So this is going to be so interesting for Jalen Hurts. I have no idea what to expect. I believe it'll be better than last year. But is it going to be enough? We're going to find out.
All right, Brody. Expectations are always a key. And we've already referenced the radical fringe of Eagles fans. Some to one end, some to the other, some in Negadelphia, some in fantasy land. Let's try and center in on the middle, which are realistic expectations. The Eagles finished second in the division last year. Not really close against the Cowboys, who won it by a couple of games. Not a tiebreaker, won it by a couple of games. But you have to add in the fact that the Eagles played the JV the last game of the season. So that did make the difference a little bit circumspect as to how much it actually was. But with the moves they made this offseason, the lack of moves that the Cowboys have made, as we sit here objectively, have the Eagles caught the Cowboys in the NFC East?
It's close. I would say I see them as a 10-7, 11 maybe type of win team. I know in theory it's easy to say, well, they won 9 last year and look at all the additions that they made. It's clearly going to be a huge jump. And I mean, it's hard to make that type of leap. Like I said, I'd laugh if someone told me 13 right now. And who knows, maybe I'm wrong. But I see them maybe as a 10 and 11 win team with winning 1 playoff game. Is that a fair with a second-year head coach, which I like Nick Sirianni. And entering last season, I thought the 3 questions were, who's Jalen Hurts, who's Nick Sirianni, who's Jonathan Gannon? I need more info on Nick Sirianni, but I'm in a good place understanding kind of what he's all about and his vibe. So I think that's off the checklist. And now it's who's Jalen Hurts and who's Jonathan Gannon. Those are more of my 2 questions, where last year I had 3. But I could see this team realistically maybe winning double-digit wins and then winning in the first round of playoffs and winning that game, which would be a great jump, honestly, in my opinion. And if that's the case, if that happens, then I feel Jalen Hurts is your quarterback after. Because you make the first year of starting, you're making the playoffs, you get blown out, and it got ugly, and there were a lot of questions about it. Then you respond with 1 win your following season. That would tell me that Jalen Hurts in this theory, in this hypothetical theory here, would be the quarterback in the following season. But I could see that being realistic. Is that out of touch to you guys?
No, I think I had him at 11 potential wins, but coming back to 10, Jody has this exercise. So pick, that's a win, that's a loss game. And I like this. And I came up with 11. But then he said, is it a hard 11, or if you were forced to go up to 12 or go back to 10, which way would you go? And I would go back to 10. So it's more of a soft 11. I want, here's how I'm going to talk. When it talks Eagles versus Cowboys, Hunter, I want you to put on your Dr. Evil hat. And I want you to say you have cloning ability. For those who remember Austin Powers, I'm dating myself. So you can clone Jalen Hurts or you can clone Dak Prescott. Either one. I don't care. You have the same player playing quarterback for both teams. Who's got the better roster? Who's the better team? I think it's the Eagles right now, but I think the Cowboys are still a tick above. What's your thought process?
Yeah, I think it's close. I mean, I really do. I think it's absolutely close. And every year is so weird, right? The year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they're coming off of a 7-9 season. Nobody thought that they were just going to go win the Super Bowl that year. And that doesn't mean it's bad to be viewed as a good squad, because the Buffalo Bills are viewed as a good squad. The Packers are viewed as a good squad. The teams that do make runs and do make some noise in the postseason are looked at as a good squad entering the season as well. But it is always strange where there's a team that you don't have high expectations for that end up doing well. And I'm just saying, I think the Cowboys, as of late, had some buzz generated, and they didn't live up to those expectations. But are we now not giving them enough credit because of what we're doing and trying to say like, oh, they're not as good, but maybe sometimes less expectations might make it a little different of a feel, if you will, when it comes to, when the season begins and all. But if I could clone Dak Prescott, I always feel Dak Prescott gets, and not that he's perfect or any means, but I'll just put it to you this way. If he's my franchise quarterback, I'm not disappointed whatsoever. If I could clone Dak Prescott and you tell me Dak Prescott's your quarterback for 7 years in the Philadelphia Eagles uniform over Jalen Hurts, I don't think that that's a horrendous position to be in by any means. And trust me, I would love an Aaron Rodgers, a Drew Brees, a Tom Brady, a Pat Mahomes, but those are very rare breeds. And if you can have a Dak Prescott, it is a good place to start.
But we surely haven't had you on since before the draft, and the Eagles ended up with the defensive additions. We kind of touched on them. We talked about the pressure being up on Gannon because of the guys that they've gotten in, and two key additions certainly are the two Georgia boys moving up here to Philadelphia. Gannon will follow and target how much he plays zone as compared to man-to-man on the outside. How aggressive is he going to be with the blitz? Eagles did not blitz much last year. Was that because they didn't have the guys that he wanted in place to be able to blitz? Does an addition like a Jordan Davis or a linebacker who can actually get upfield like Kobe Dean change how often the Eagles blitz? That's something that always grabs the attention of Eagle fans. They want to know, how much are we blitzing? They love the blitz. They've always loved the blitz. I've been here in town 30 years, going back to Buddy Ryan. They love Eagles teams that blitz. Is Jonathan Gannon going to give them what they want?
I have no idea. I'll say this about Jonathan Gannon, though. As much as I was very critical of him, and rightfully so, there's more in here, right? I mean, there's got to be more in here, considering how he's viewed around league circles. And trust me, people get things wrong in this league a lot of times when you look at head coaches and things of that nature. But, I mean, it was so awkwardly weird last season after all the buzz around his name was as high as it was at the time of him signing here as the defensive coordinator. So I just imagine that with all of this talent and with all of this skill, that you'll be able to see some more versatility with Reddick in there and Jordan Davis, as you said, who can maybe eat up some time and some double teams and then open up the door for other people to kind of explode and get to the quarterback. And one name that I don't hear a lot is, and maybe you guys do more during the show, but, Brandon Graham coming back, I think is just going to be so massive. And I know he's a veteran and I know he's older and maybe he loses a step, if you will, but I think he's one of those players that comes back and shows his determination to have a little bit more spark coming back from the injury when maybe there's some doubt on how much left he does have in the tank. So I just think all around there's so much firepower there that Gannon, maybe it's not necessarily blitzing and it's not bringing added pressure and one extra guy every single time, but the versatility that he could bring with schematics and the quarterback thing's interesting, though, because Darius Slay, I want to see him up in the corner as a corner, play press coverage and up in the face of wide receivers, jam them at the line of scrimmage, make them uncomfortable, get in their face. But when you look at Bradberry and his ability to do really well in the zone, how are they going to do this? How are they going to do this to maximize, these two cornerbacks? But there's got to be more in that brain power of Gannon, doesn't there?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Brodes, and its versatility. You can do a lot of different things. You can do mix and match coverage. You can have Slay and man and do the old Bill Belichick route and take away one side of the field with Slay and then play zone on the other side. A lot of different things you can do, versatility. But to answer Jody's question, I think that answer is easy. Not if he doesn't have to. He's
right.
Not blitzing. If he has to, he's got more versatility to blitz anymore. But the goal is to get home with 4 and to have as many people in coverage. If you could get home with 3, you'd get home with 3, but nobody can. So everybody wants more players in coverage except Buddy Ryan, but that's a different era. And that's where Eagles fans got to get. This is not the same era of football. But we started this thing with expectations, bro. So I want to go there. And you've been around long enough to things look good on paper. When the Sixers traded for James Harden in the first game and he went off and everybody's like, look at this. What do we have? And then all of a sudden, things don't tend to work out the way they look like they might work out.
Or you didn't like how that ended?
Well,
you weren't a fan of that?
I said they're going to lose in the second round from day one. So I was rock solid on that prediction. But things have a way of not working out the way people think they're going to work out. So if the Eagles don't live up to these newfound expectations, besides the quarterback, which is obvious, I think, and maybe safety, what's the most concerning part of this team to you that you think, I'm not as high on this as maybe some other people are?
Well, it probably wouldn't be offensive line. Probably wouldn't be wide receiver. I'd be stunned if we're talking about that in a wide receiver department. You definitely labeled the obvious in safety in the secondary. I think there's a lot of question marks there. I think you have guys that can hold their own. And look, not every team is going to be elite in every single area. So if you are average in your safety department while you're really good at cornerback and your defensive front is solid, that's still a good structure. So if I'm going to think outside the box, here's a curveball for you. How about Miles Sanders? I have no idea. It's almost like he shows this level of good play and flashiness, but there's just something missing, and I don't know what that is. And, you could talk about fumble issues or missing the gaps or missing the reads there with some of his blocking, but outside the box answer, maybe a Miles Sanders. He confuses me at times, and I think that there's another level in his game that I don't know if he's ever going to reach it or I don't know what it is, but do you guys smell what I smell when I watch Miles Sanders? Like there's so much talent there, but are we getting everything out of him? So think outside the box. Maybe that's my answer, which is maybe a weird one, but that's where my mind went.
No, I'm with you. And I think it's going to be really hard for Miles to get an extension as a contract. Yeah, I don't see a path for this reason, guys. And Jody knows I've said this. But he has a great year, finally turns into what the Eagles thought Miles Sanders could be. They're not going to want to pay him because of the devaluation of the position. And if he has a bad year and he doesn't live up to the expectations, they're going to say, we're just going to move on. I can't find a path to Miles Sanders being on this team next year. And in a contract year, that's always difficult because he's surely thinking about these things as well. So I like your answer.
But just to play devil's advocate with myself, I guess, which I tend to do, if they do underachieve, is the running back going to be the face of why they didn't succeed?
No.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
And the league will help to determine what Miles Sanders is worth because I do think he's going to get to free agency. I think both you and John are right. The Eagles aren't. We're always wondering about who the next guy, Howie Roseman, is going to target as an extension possibility. It's not going to be a running back. It's not going to be Sanders. It's not going to be anybody else. They're just not going to go there. So the league will determine when he gets to free agency exactly what his value is. And the Eagles may or may not be shopping in that market. I'll give you another place that it could be. And this bothers me when I even go there. I fear that at some point in the next 300 and some odd days, we're going to say, and the Philadelphia Eagles have re-signed Derek Barnett to a league minimum contract. At some point, you got to move on. You just got to throw up your hands and go, no mas, we give up. We'll see what Brandon Graham's got left in the tank. I hope Brandon plays another 2 or 3 years. You have to go 1 year at a time now, though, with Brandon. And then all of a sudden, I know it's on Reddick is a hybrid player, linebacker / defensive end. Sweat you made a commitment to. That's not a whole hell of a lot of depth at defensive end. That's where I think the Eagles are going to have rebuilding to do. If the guys come up short in those areas next year, is defensive end. It's not a position with a lot of depth.
Yeah, that's a great answer as well. And it's funny you bring up Derek Barnett. Yesterday I was talking about the Phils, and I said, it's 2022, and I am still talking about Odubel Herrera. Like, I cannot believe that I'm still talking about Odubel Herrera. I mean, him and Michael Franco, it makes me want to blow my brains out sometimes. But Derek Barnett, I mean, it's the same thing. I can't believe we are this deep into it. And, man, I mean, you know at some point that flag's going to go, right? That 15-yard penalty, the late hit. I mean, here we go. But, some guys, the way they sold it to you with the role that he's going to be playing with the limitations of his snap count and this and that as a rotational piece, yada, yada, yada. If you got that with a different name, that level of production with a different name, are you as upset? Probably not. But I think your answer all around with defensive end is a fair one. But knowing their beliefs and their concepts on how to build a roster, with a blink of an eye, that whole defensive line, I'm sure, will be replenished before you know it.
Final one from me, Hunter. Follow Hunter Brody at Brodes81 on Twitter. Obviously, you can listen to him at 97.5 The Fanatic, Sports Talk with Brodes, Brodes Media, brodesmedia.com. You see the backdrop. He's coming up in the world. Hunter Brody, I love that backdrop.
Thank you.
We're talking about Jalen Hurts. We're talking about Jonathan Gannon. You mentioned a little bit earlier, you like Nick Sirianni. The head coach is kind of skating under the radar, which is pretty amazing considering where we were last year at this time. And Nick is a rookie head coach and everybody, this isn't ready. What is going on with this guy? You go all the way in the season with the famous Flower press conference. Are you stunned how quickly Nick Sirianni is assimilated to Philadelphia and how many people are like, he's not a concern. We don't have to worry about Nick Sirianni.
I think maybe they just we liked what we saw. We saw concepts, we saw beliefs, we saw a coach in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season go with a game plan, and it didn't end up working, so he scrapped it and he went to something new. We saw an innovative young guy, which is kind of what we wanted him to be, even though we had concerns just based off the way he spoke to everybody. But we wanted from a distance a young, innovative guy who, can be creative, that can think on his toes, that can change the game plan when needed. And because maybe he showed that recipe, the tone around him is, I feel a little bit more comfortable. I almost wonder, and I'm no Jalen Hurts hater by any means. I'm really rooting for the kid because that means maybe next year you can utilize those draft picks on some more game-changing talent up in the first round of the draft, and it would be easier for this organization if he did pan out. But is there even more in Nick Sirianni that he's somewhat handcuffed because of what the quarterback is? Because let's be realistic. If you're going to be a first-year head coach and your first 4 games is throwing the football 40-something times and then you realize, hey, we got to go in another direction here. What do you really want to do? What does your passing game really want to look like? And things of that nature. But I think it's more of him just showing that he can think on his toes, change week to week, scrap a game plan, come up with something new. And look, he's going to have mistakes with maybe not challenging a play, or we don't love a certain 3rd down call or a certain 4th down call, but that's going to be any coach, especially a young one. But I think that's maybe why we saw things logically, even if it didn't maybe pan out due to a limited roster. There's details that we saw within his 17 games that we think can work over time, and that's why the emphasis or the overview isn't as harsh as maybe it is for the quarterback and the defensive coordinator?
Could very well be. All right, John, tell Brodes what it's time for. Jody McDonald's favorite aspect.
You're getting a hypothetical question,
Ooh.
Hunter Brody.
Okay.
Hypothetical question coming your way, Mr.
Needs
Brody.
a coffee for that.
Feel free to go to the coffee before you answer this hypothetical question. And let me put it in parentheses and underline, this is not a prediction. This is a hypothetical question. It's going to be a glass half empty one, but this is not what I'm projecting or predicting will happen. I'm just suggesting that it might happen. In the first 4 weeks of the season, Eagles have what we believe to be an easy schedule. Can be 3-1, not impossible, 4-0. They're winnable games to start the season. 2 of them against former mates. One being Carson Wentz down in D.C., the other being Doug Peterson coming home to the Link. Eagles will be favorite in both of these games. They should win both of these games. If they come up small and lose, and maybe even lose badly, I'm not talking 31-0 against the Bucs in the playoffs last year, but by more than a touchdown to one of these 2 guys next week, which one causes more havoc? Which one brings those expectations down pretty quickly? Ticks off Eagle fans. How can we lose to Carson Wentz? How can Dougie P come in here with the stinking Jags and win at Lincoln Financial Field? If one of those 2 things happen, which wreaks more havoc in the first month of the season?
My instant reaction goes to Carson Wentz just because of the division rival and how much that would matter in terms of losing a division game. But when you think of the Jacksonville Jaguars, you always just assume that squad should be getting blown out, even though they have the Trevor Lawrence of the world and they pay $9 million to a Kirk, and we'll see what $90 billion it felt like. Obviously, I'm being facetious here on the amount. It's just an obnoxious amount. But yeah, I think it would be Carson Wentz just because of the division rival involved, and that would be more painful. But if you lose to the Jags, think about how much that would wreak too. I can't imagine that, though. See,
that's where, by the way, Hunter, that's where Nick gets some, you know what? If he loses to Doug Peterson with the Jaguars coming into Philadelphia, he's going to hear it that week.
Yeah, for sure. I think that with these two situations, talking about losses in a hypothetical world is always disappointing. Last year, you didn't know what your team was about. And every team is different in January than they are in September, no matter what season it is. You saw that with Tom Brady. You saw that with the New England Patriots, where it's 2-2 in the first 4. Are they done now? And then by the winter, they're going on a Super Bowl run and they're doing damage. But I just feel that there's so much more knowledge and information and data on a lot of these guys with Nick Sirianni. And he had a whole year coaching under his belt that I just feel good about this first month of the year and the first 4 games of the year compared to where we were last year. So it's just so hard for me to envision that. I can't imagine them coming off to a slow start with just all the knowledge and difference with the head coach. I really believe that. And the opponents matter too. But I can't imagine them coming off to a slow start this year.
Right. That's why I didn't go slow. I just one game. Because if you, God forbid, you say the Eagles will be 2-2 after 4. Eagle Nation will come after you hard. And I don't believe that. I actually think they got a better chance to be 4-0 than they do 2-2. But they're going to have to lose one of them. And if it's either Dougie P or Carson Wentz, yes, it will make a fun week here on the channel. Brodes, it was fun talking to you, bud. Thank you very much for hopping on. We'll be catching you on the Fanatic when you pop up there. Thanks for popping in with us.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You got it.